Hello and welcome to the Kitbash, everyone. Here I'm going to examine various model kits and see how they stack up against the more recent kits in that line, and how accurate they are compared to the original unit if they have an anime or other sort of media. Not exactly complicated, but it should get the job done. Games Workshop's Warhammer 40,000 miniature game has had something of a renaissance in the last year or so, the model kit quality steadily moving upwards in recent years, and a big shake-up in the game's backstory, changing a lot of things around. For example, the Eldar, formerly known as Space Elves, are now known as the Aeldari, and their dark kin are now called the Drukhari. Additionally, there are some limited production or region locked miniatures that are currently lighting up the sell and trade groups on various social media sites and eBay, like the Japan only release of certain Space Marine figures. Similarly, the Aeldari Bonesinger, a spellcaster who can heal Aeldari constructs, is a limited run model that is currently out of production and not available for purchase. So today, using bits, bobs, odds and ends, and otherwise, a little bit of glue, a couple of bits,
a little energon, and a lot of luck,
we're going to create our own. Because of the nature of this build, it's difficult to find an accurate comparison because it really won't look like its intended model, and won't exactly move. But if it looks like it fits against other Aeldari models, I think we'll have done our job. So let's kick it to the live cam and see what we end up with.
We now return you to your regular scheduled kit bash, now in progress. So, as I said in the intro, in broad defiance of Games Workshop, I have attempted to kit bash together a Midweaver Sigh? Whatever. Using parts that I already have of my Aeldari Craft Worlds and parts from this Mistweaver's kit, the intention is to turn it into a Bonesinger, because Bonesingers are super rad, and especially if you run a lot of Wraith constructs in my army, like I do, I have to keep my Wraith Knights alive somehow. Tears of Isha, the stratagem, will not do it. And several of you out there found that funny, and the rest of you are going, what the fuck is he talking about? So the first thing is, I'm going to attempt to... Okay, well, so here's the first problem. That long, graceful, slender neck of yours, Mistweaver, is a slight bit too long for this head, and now you're stuck. So we're going to have to gently remove a big part of that, and we're just going to stick this on here. I swear this will make more visual sense. There we go. You still got a swan neck. Okay, so what this is a the head from a Spirit Seer, I believe. No, this is the head from a Hemlock Wraith Fighter pilot, who is a Psyker as well, and the Bonesinger is also a Psyker. So this is just like a visual representation of that. And you'll notice she doesn't have any pegs in which to fit the round hole that I'm going to put this thing that has a force shield on it on there. So I'm just going to have to flatten this out, and probably, I think while I'm at it, I'm going to slim down that arm a little bit with my clippers. See, the nice thing about these Citadel stuff is that once you can beat the living hell out of it, and you can chop and hack and hack and chop. And as long as you put a decent coat of paint on it, nobody's going to notice that you shaved down parts, unless you're a Midwesterner like me and have this, like, this problem where you have to tell everybody every single thing that you did to a kit to make it fit. Well, let's try sticking it on there and see if it takes. The nice thing that I have found about Warhammer kits is that you can just, like, if it doesn't look like you want it to, you just break the motherfucking things. Just bash them into bits and then paint over them. Okay, well, pose... this pose is not particularly dynamic because there's not a lot you can actually do with an arm that's just sticking straight out. But it doesn't look horrendous. I think I might try and camp this a little bit. Why is it now of all days that the glue is deciding to stick really, really well? Spoke too soon. Okay, fine. Okay, so got going like this, and now she's doing some sort of weird wuxia pose. And you know what? I'm here for it. Let me just nib that down a little bit more. It gives it a nice flat space. So the original idea was I was going to give it the singing spear off of a Eldar jet bike, and I don't really think that's going to fit very well. Maybe, because I also have this option of giving her this like super nasty fucking knife, which is actually from the kit itself, and that might do a little bit better in the grand scheme of things. But I'm not entirely sold on that yet. So while I ponder and think about that, I'm going to pull the shoulder plate off of this side and see if I can get it to stick on. See, the problem is that I'm running into right now with this is that if I put on this arm, then all I've really done is a head swap and pop off an arm. And I want to do something a little bit more interesting with it, if I can all help it. But I don't know if fate has that in mind for me. So this character has a weapon called a psychometrome. I think that's how it's pronounced, but it's one of those stupid space words that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. So maybe that'll take... I don't really have anything good to represent that because the version that they've got is some sort of weird loot thing. And I'm not really keen on that. But I was going to say maybe I could give her this bits and bobs here, but that makes her arm too long. Maybe I'll hold that thought, and I will come back to this in a little bit. Alright, so now I think I have found, finally, a maybe appropriate solution. This is a Dire Avenger Exarch Spear, but you notice it, I've taken off the super big, beefy, muscular arm at the top, and you don't really see a whole lot of what else is going on. And in keeping with the crazy wuxia thing I've got going on with this particular model, now she's going to have a power glaive, even though it's not going to be reflected in the rule set at all. Though, again, I don't have to use it just as a Bonesinger or anything. I can also use it as like a Exarch without wings, or maybe a... Fudge, hang on, my glue. There we go. However, I don't have to just use it as a Bonesinger. I can also use it as like an Exarch or a Farseer or any number of things that I might care to do. And of course, this glue sets super slowly until it decides not to, and then it does that super fast. So, yeah. So, while I'm waiting for this to cure, I'm looking through some other gubbins and beetly bops that I've got. I'm just going to set you back here, honey. This is from the Farseer jet bike, which is incidentally where I got the singing spear from too. But it's got these cool little veins that I didn't put on the jet bike because that is a big pain in the patootie to do. But I did. I keep the veins. I'm probably going to have to put this head in a box somewhere. That's the thing about being a Warhammer player and builder. You end up with lots of heads in boxes, and just, your landlord finds them, and you gotta explain yourself. And well, it's like being in any hobby. It's not porn. You don't have to explain yourself, but you just sometimes feel like you oughta. And so to do something about her kind of boring back, I'm going to put this thing up here. I think, if it'll take. Put it right between her shoulder blades. Obviously, she's already an elf. She looks elfy. She's doing the elfy stuff. She's flying around on whatever the hell's going on here. I think that this now looks appropriately like Eldari Craft Worlds, rather than an elf Mistweaver. A Mistweaver sigh. And I have all these pieces left. Of course, this episode is not over because this thing is not painted. It's not base coated either, but I mean, obviously. And I have a personal rule that I don't like to feel anything that's gray plastic. So, I'm going to catch you in a little bit after I've base coated it and put some paint on it. Once I figure out what my paint scheme's going to be. Alrighty, here we are back once again. Let's take care of business here. Now, there are a few colors that I honestly just like to use a whole lot on my Eldar army, and I'm gonna use them today. To the shock of none, I'm sure. I have something resembling a paint scheme going on, and the primary color that I like to use is Hawk Turquoise. Now, this is the old paint pot. The new one is actually called Sotek Green. And I have a couple of pots of that, but I'm going to burn through this one first, as you can well imagine. Now, we're not going to do anything too fancy with this right now. I will admit that I am actually kind of on a time crunch to get this done, or at least 3 colored, because I have a Warhammer game coming up this evening. Har har, fun jokes, silly jokey. So, mostly what my Farseers and other Psychers have is a coat of this on their robes. Usually their helmets are gray or silver. The silver is reserved for the head honcho, the big Farseer that I use. It's a Farseer is a Psyker, by the way. A psychic character, warlord, all that shit. And so, just gonna paint up her chest binding like that. We're gonna get. So before I get any further with this, I am going to just say first and foremost that this is going to be a 3-color paint job going into this game tonight. And then I will come back after I'm finished with said game, and then we'll start doing some cool shit with it, hopefully. Let's see. I liked Gunmetal. Codex Gray. Codex Gray is going to be the color of choice for the Wraithbone stuff she's got on her, because it's a very neutral color, and I can just paint over it fairly easily. Makes it look like a Space Man. Rocket Man, if you will. Rocket Woman. But yeah, 3 colors. 3-color paint scheme is table worthy, as we say. Now, some people may highly disagree with that, and some may not, and that's up to your personal gaming group. But as for me and mine, just get the damn thing built some days. We're going to give her some... this is Temple Guard Blue. It's very similar to Hawk Turquoise, but it's a little lighter. And so since she's got these flowing tassels here, we're just going to make those stick out like that. Got some tasselage up here. Got some on her chin. Fuck. Oh well, I'll go over that again. That helmet's probably going to end up black again. What should I give her? I will give her a Stegodon green armor. We're going to go back to our Codex Gray real quick and do her weapon. Her big old Lancerino here. Because that's easy enough. And then we're going to do Stegodon green on her. I gotta take care of that chin problem. And we're going to color the blade a different color. Make it stand out. A little bit. I find that a lot of model kit painting is kind of intuition based. To quote Marco D'Ambrosio, if it sounds good, if it sounds good, it is good, and that's kind of how I do models too. If it looks good, it is good. Unfortunately, unlike Marco D'Ambrosio, the composer for Vampire Hunter D, I am not a professional composer. I am but a humble model painter and kind of a doofus. This looks about on track, I feel, with my Farseer here, who has a very similar thing going on. It'll take a little bit more polish and a little bit more work, but all things considered, 3 colors is good enough for the table, so it's good enough for me. Now, I'll be back in a little bit with some proper ideas on what exactly I'm going to do with her, but for now, this is good. And we're back after a quick game where, sadly, the Bonesinger didn't even make it onto the table, thanks to some of the new rules, which I should have remembered were I not, thicker than pig shit. We are back, and we're going to start cleaning our lady up. Gray on this end bits here. I'm going to do another layer on the teal, or the turquoise, excuse me, on her torso plate. I've kind of scratched out on her helmet here where the black part is going to go, for lack of a better term. Because most Bonesingers and Spirit Seers and Wraith Seers have giant black masks on their face instead of like eye slits and stuff. And well, she's not particularly... Well, as a Bonesinger, she's not particularly in the same crowd as those guys. If I want to use her as another Spirit Seer, for example, to replace the kind of junky, not even junky, but like the kind of and not dynamic, interesting one that I have, I can do that. So I'm going to get my Hawk Turquoise out, and we're going to go over her robes again, just real quick, like... We're going to let that cure for a little bit here, and then we're going to make her tassels stand out a little bit more.
So I'm a start that really likes a sharp contrast, even between similar colors, like a Bararoth blue or Baharoth, whatever. The stupid space made up name. Like a Bararoth blue or Hawk turquoise. I like that stark contrast to really pop if I can at all help it. But sometimes you can't. That's kind of unnerving. That's kind of what I'm going for. I like it. I'm probably going to end up going back and forth on that and adding more black and removing more black as it goes. But for now, for the sake of this exercise, I think that's fine. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some of this Thousand Suns blue and we're going to do her arms up with that. And if I don't like it, then I'm going to go over it with a little bit of Temple Guard blue just to get that contrast. So we're going to see what happens. Well, in this in a thing, you experiment sometimes, and sometimes it kicks off. Sometimes it really doesn't. I'm going to let that sit and cure for a minute while I think about this. I'm going to put her one exposed leg, which in the original model kit is supposed to just be her leg just sticking out of there, but we are in space, damn it, and that is not how a spacefaring race is, manages to stay alive. Close that up. So now I've got to catch, what is she floating on? I think we're gonna give this a layer of Cobalite green, which you guys remember from the last Kitbash I tried to use, and it just wasn't green enough. But I think this might be weird and eldritchy enough that it'll be a good look. Okay, well, kids, today we're learning a very special and important lesson about sticking and developing and sticking with a color scheme. I don't really like that Thousand Suns blue on there, so we're just gonna go. She's just gonna be all Hawk turquoise, much as I can. And this is kind of the problem that you run into when you do a kit bash, is that because the parts are intentionally mismatched, it kind of gives you a little shit about it. Finding things that really work well together is a bit of a problem. And when the pieces don't match together, you can really tell that those pieces don't belong there, and so you have to kind of figure out what you want to do about that. And in my case, paint it all together. It's supposed to be there. I'm probably gonna give her like some sort of belt once this current layer gets done curing off here, and just kind of break up her silhouette a little bit. I'm gonna try something silly. Because obviously, what she looks like right now is a big blue turquoise mass, and as you can see on the farseer here, he's got a little bit more breakage. Actually, he's got a shitty paint job, but that's beside the point. I'm actually going to deal with you later. I've got it in hand right now. Try since I... Welcome to Prof Correct's errors on his old model kits, while he waits for other stuff to cure. Let's get in there. There we go. A little moment of mild psychosis there. Like, nope, gotta fix that shit. But yeah, in an effort to break up her figure, I'm going to take a little bit of Gene Stealer Purple here. Let's just see if we can't lighten up that waist area. On the back here, I'm going to have to go over that again, fix that up, but again, it's all bueno. I don't have a specialized brush for fixing issues like I probably should, but I do have a pipe wrench which I've lovingly named Mr. Fix-It that I use whenever I have to bust apart a model, which is actually happens with alarming regularity. A lot of painting these models I've found is a lot of just kind of going over and over and over and just like fixing the little muck ups that you do, which is super irritating and super frustrating to have to do. But yeah, there we go. Woo, Rocket Girl. Look at you. Yeah, sometimes you make pernicious mistakes with your modeling. The only solution is to get wet paint off as fast as you fucking can. There we go. Again, I'm not the world's greatest painter, but I think that's table ready. It's interesting. It's visually distinct. It looks like it's got everything covered on it. And to be perfectly honest, the more I work on it, the less good it's gonna get. I feel like I'm just gonna keep mutzing and futzing with it until it starts to suck and I start to hate it. So we've got some interesting layering going on in this cloud of what I have to assume is fart gas. Uh, we've got some cool stuff going on with the helmet. The what's it is broken up. She's got some little bibs and bobs on her back that I could go over with like gold or something that I probably will come back to after a while. But all things considered, I think that this is pretty well taken care of. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and as you can see, I think we have accomplished our mission here. The new Bonesinger fits in rather well with the two Farseers. You can see how she stacks up and doesn't really look like the Autarch, either one of them. And you can see that the Spirit Seer here is very similar in pose and motion. So I think that they kind of all flow together very nicely. And, well, I'm not going to be shocking the world with my paint scheme, and I'm not really going to be blowing anybody away on the table, specifically with her, due to her stat line. All things considered, I think that was a pretty rousing success. And all it took was a bunch of parts that I already had, some time, and some paint. So if I can do it, I believe you out there can too, no problem. And as always, thanks for watching.